Are you going to read it for us? Hey? Good morning. We'll see if this works. I'm sitting perched on a stile. I've got a cup of tea, which is going a bit cold actually, but please excuse me if I do sip from it, because otherwise I'll just be coughing everywhere. And snowflakes around, the horses are around. This is a footpath behind me and also coming up from my right, and it's also a track for cars, so we may have some people joining us, or I may edit them out, or this may be one of a zillion takes. We'll find out. The first thing to say after all of that, oh, the midges are biting as well. The first thing to say is happy birthday Bob. It's his 60th birthday today. I always publish my books on a family or friend's birthday, and so it's my beloved Bob's turn today, which, let's see if he actually reads this book, because we all know he hasn't read any of the others. We'll see. And it's publication day for Silver Betrayal, April the 17th, 2019. There's already over 50 copies, paperback copies already out there in circulation, so fingers crossed everybody's enjoying them. Or at least there will be 50 copies once I've posted a few and delivered a couple. I think I've only sold one ebook, or at least I had the last time I checked, and I bought that one. So I hope a few more books are sold than that. But I'm going to see if we can manage, without too many interruptions, to read you the first chapter of Silver Betrayal. If you look back through the videos on this Facebook page, you'll see that I've read the first chapter of all the other books as well. Some of them have gone better than others, and I've had a few interruptions which I've kept in, so we'll see how we go. So Silver Betrayal, this book, I started writing this book August 2017, so it's taken me flipping ages to write. Twice I decided I wouldn't carry on because I found it too hard. It's not part of the Woodford series. I did it so I could challenge myself not to just keep writing the same thing, and there were definitely a couple of times that it was too hard and I stopped. But a little bit of time away gives you some perspective, so I had to change my goals for it, and just relax and just get back to, I know who reads my books, I know who I'm writing for, so I just got back to that rather than, I don't really know what I was trying to do. And then it worked, and I absolutely love it, and I really hope you will too. So I can hear JD getting closer behind me. He's already, I can't now sell this book because he's already smeared it. Okay, Silver Betrayal, Chapter 1. Julie Collins turned off the lights and the van's engine, climbed out of the cab, checked the time on her mobile phone, and let out a low growl of frustration when she saw it was now 4:30 in the morning. She should have left home 20 minutes earlier and be singing along to the radio as she drove on the A303 to London. Instead, she was standing next to her vehicle in the dark, outside her cottage, on a rutted farm track in Dorset, waiting for her dogs to return from wherever they had run off to. A layer of frost shimmered over the van's red paintwork in the moonlight, but her admiration for the beauty of nature had long been replaced with annoyance at her dog's behaviour. Julie had turned the engine and the heaters on when she let the dogs out of her cottage, so the windscreen and the wing mirrors were clear and the van was ready to go. They had a morning routine established after 3 years of early starts once or twice a week, and she couldn't understand why the dogs had decided to change their habits on this particular day. Normally she would be woken up by the alarm, showered, dressed and downstairs for breakfast in less than 10 minutes. Kettle on, dogs out, van engine on, back inside for final visit to the toilet. Front door locked, coffee and coat in the van, dogs in their travel harnesses, and off they went. 22 minutes of well-timed precision was a successful start to the day. 22 minutes of waiting around for her bloody dogs to come home was a bad start to the day. Julie shivered and pulled her coat off the passenger seat, shoving her arms in and wrapping them around her body in a solo hug. Underneath it, she wore a light sleeveless red top, which would be ideal for the anticipated hot and sunny May day ahead and for the journey, but was no match for the present chill in the air outside. Her mood was not improved when she tugged up the zip of the dark blue parka and her long brown hair became entangled. It took a while to pull her hair free. Cursing her wayward dogs, Julie took a deep breath, gathered up her hair into a makeshift ponytail, twisted it a couple of times and shoved it neatly down the neck of the parka before doing the zip back up without incident. She dug her hands deep into the coat's pockets and wondered if she should run back indoors and retrieve a pair of gloves. Where had she stored them? She thought she had seen them in the chest of drawers just inside the front door of her cottage. Wriggling her fingers, she felt the smooth, cold, hard shell of her phone. Pulling it out, she saw the time display showed 4:37 a.m. Julie stamped her feet, the noise of her boots echoing in the still air. If her bloody dogs didn't come back soon, there'd be no point in leaving for the antiques fair. All of the stands would have been taken by other dealers, and the 2 days she had worked sorting antiques suitable for selling at this fair would have been a waste of time. Julie had been a regular at the market in London for over 20 years and had built up a decent following of buyers, guaranteeing a successful day even in these challenging financial times in the antiques trade. She started to text her friend Terry to ask if she could save her place. Suddenly, the early morning quiet was interrupted by a rustling sound. Temporarily blinded by the brightness of her phone, she peered unseeingly into the dark and called, "Freddie! Bella!" All Julie could see was the vague shapes of the hedges lining the track. She strained to hear the sound again. Nothing. It was so quiet she felt a little disorientated. An owl hooted nearby and made her jump. Laughing nervously, she reached into the cab of her van and took another swig of coffee from the travel mug. She continued with the text to Terry and let out a groan of annoyance as she watched her phone go dead. Oh well, she'd just have to text Terry later. Either that, or accept that she would lose her place at the fair and go back to bed. She reached over and plugged her phone into charge. She called for the dogs again and was surprised to hear a note of fear in her voice. Julie could always rely on her 2 Labradors, a brother and sister, to be close by. She had rehomed them from the local animal rescue centre when they were only 12 years old, and both dogs were usually ready and waiting next to the van when she finished locking up her cottage. They were chocolate Labradors, and like many in the breed, they were notorious for being soppy and disobedient, but neither had ever disappeared like this before. Julie could not imagine what had happened to them. There were no busy roads nearby for them to be picked up by a stranger or run over and killed or badly injured. If they were lumbering after a deer or rabbit, she would have heard them because Freddie always let out excited yips when he picked up a scent, ensuring that whatever was intended as prey had plenty of warning to escape. If one or both of them were trapped on the wrong side of a fence in the field somewhere, they would have loudly answered her calls and whistles in their eagerness to be rescued. She decided to go back into the cottage to refill the travel mug with coffee and check that the bloomin' dogs hadn't snuck back in somehow. She would be furious with them if they were snuggled up together on her bed. They had done that once before when the weather was particularly bad, making a disgusting mess on her beautiful, indulgent white Kelly Hoppen bedsheets. She'd been cross with them, not only because of the muddy sheets, but also because they knew they were not allowed upstairs under any circumstances. Part of her hoped they had broken the rules again, because at least she would know they were safe. Julie gave the dogs one more chance. "Freddie! Bella! Come bloody here!" Silence. She had no close neighbours. Julie's cottage was situated 1 mile along a track, which ended just a few metres past the end of her garden, and led into a private country estate, although no one ever accessed it that way. The estate had a separate grand entrance 1/2 mile along the main road, complete with 2 stone gatehouses linked by an archway into a typical sweeping driveway revealing the stunning parkland as it wove its way to the big stately home at the end. The large metal gates beyond Julie's cottage were functional rather than beautiful and securely locked. Due to the lack of dwellings nearby, there was no light pollution, although to the east of the track she could look over several hundred acres of woodland and parkland up to the haze of streetlights a few miles away in the market town of Shaftesbury, high on a hill. To the west there was nothing but grassy fields grazed by dairy and beef cows. At the southern end of the track, where it met a main road, was a pair of semi-detached cottages on one side and a large Victorian house opposite them where a woman ran a bed and breakfast business. Alongside the cottages was an enormous mansion, hidden from view by the high walls which surrounded it, and state-of-the-art security preventing even the most determined criminals from breaking in. Julie had heard rumours in the town that the occupant of the mansion was a reclusive IT billionaire who only came and went in a private helicopter or a blacked-out Range Rover. Julie realised that she had been waiting for so long that the moon was no longer bright as dawn was trying to make an appearance over the horizon. Looking for 2 chocolate-coloured dogs was difficult in these conditions, but she wondered why she couldn't hear them either. They were noisy creatures, always snuffling along with their noses to the ground or stopping to have mini play fights. Both were incapable of moving in a straight line on their own, but were excellent on the lead whenever she took them for rambles in the Dorset countryside. Freddie would walk on her left, Bella on her right. She knew that even if it was charged up, the torch on her phone would be inadequate for a proper search of the fields, and she had no idea where her big heavy-duty torch was, the one she used in the depths of winter when she rarely saw her cottage in daylight for days on end. She'd probably find that torch when she found her gloves. She jumped again at the noise of the cockerel, Stanley, a white Sussex, welcoming the morning from inside the chicken run on the other side of her cottage. A rustle in the bushes across the lane drew her across to peer into the murk to see if it was one or both of her dogs. A blow to the back of her head brought about a different type of darkness. I hope you enjoyed that. I think we got away with it. There was a little bit of off-camera noise from JD and Bracken, who like to play stallions. I think they were off-camera. And of course Snowflake, always present. But nobody came up. Lovely and quiet today. Beautiful sunny day. Whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a good one. And buy my book. Thank you for listening.